We'll discuss today the restriction of Chadash. Chadash means new. It means that any new produce which had grown from after last Pesach, you cannot have until the next Pesach. Let me explain the mitzvah of Chadash. The Torah says, Lechem v'kali v'charmel lo tochelu ad etzem hayom hazeh ad aviachem et korban Elohechem chukat olam ledorotechem b'chol moshvotechem. It's important to understand this pasuk. The Torah restricts us from having bread. Kali means roasted grains. Carmel means half roasted. You're not allowed to eat until Etzem Hayom Hazeh. Etzem Hayom Hazeh is referring to the day the Jewish people would have sacrificed the Omer in the Bet HaMikdash, which was the 16th of Nisan. That's a day after the first day of Yom Tov of Pesach. That sacrifice of the Omer would allow us to have all the new produce. The restriction of Chadash applies to the 5 grains. And therefore, any of the 5 grains which had grown after Pesach need the next Pesach, even though nowadays we don't actually sacrifice the Omer Korban, we don't have a Bet HaMikdash, unfortunately, yet we still have to wait to the 16th of the Nisan until the full day finishes before we have any of the new produce. Now, the majority of opinions hold that this is applicable even outside of Eretz Israel, as the Torah says, "Bechol moshvotechem," wherever you'll dwell. Furthermore, this will apply even when there's no Bet HaMikdash, biblically. The Shulchan Aruch follows the mainstream of opinions, which hold that Chadash is a restriction which applies even nowadays. In European countries, this problem, because the seasons of the planting and the harvesting was at different times, the problem and the issue of Chadash was much greater. And therefore, a lot of the halachic authorities in Europe had to accommodate and find leniencies to this restriction. For instance, the Rosh says there's a concept of sfeka, a double doubt. We don't know whether it was from the previous year, from this year, and even if it was from the previous year, maybe even from the new year, maybe it had grown enough, sufficient before Pesach. So he creates what we call a sfeka. Now this is quite a questionable sfeka because really the doubt is only one, whether it's Chadash or not Chadash. So there's great discussion amongst the later on halachic authorities. Furthermore, there's the opinion of the Bach, which the Bet Chadash, that many Ashkenazi rely on, that he claims that by produce of a non-Jew, the restriction of Chadash is not applicable. However, this has been rejected by most opinions in Halacha. And therefore, as far as we are concerned, especially the Sephardim, should not be relying on these leniencies and should be maintaining the Halacha of the restriction of Chadash even nowadays. Furthermore, the Or HaChaim HaKadosh, in his book Rishon Letzion, Rabbi Chaim ben Atar, he actually writes that not always you can rely on something what we call sfeka, on a double doubt. If you're able to get to the bottom end and to find that there's a full restriction or that this is the new produce, then you would not be able to rely on sfeka. Sfeka you rely when you haven't got the ability of clarifying the status of something. And since nowadays, if you do research, you can find out where exactly there's traceability, what we call today. You can trace where produce comes exactly and at what time of the year, and therefore it's very difficult to say you can rely on any doubts here. So therefore, the restriction of Chadash should be maintained. Just want to give a summary. I'm not going into details about companies and what this, but mainly today there's an issue of oats. From November onwards, produce which you find on the shelves in the big supermarkets are an issue of Chadash. We're not going into these details. We can explain by request, but you have to know that since these products get replaced very frequently in the supermarkets, already from November and December onwards, you've already got new produce coming onto the shelves, and therefore people should do the correct and appropriate research where you can get not Chadash, especially by oats. The issue is by oats. Now, as far as drinks are concerned, like for instance, beer is made from barley, and there should also be an issue of Hadash. So, because there is further discussions about this matter of Hadash, whether it applies to liquids as well, therefore we adopt this leniency and we hold that unless you know for sure this is from the new produce, you don't have to be stringent when it comes to liquids which might be from Hadash. Baruch Adonai Le'olam, Amen v'Amen.